Some graves don't hold the dead, they wait. The mist rolled low across the wetlands of Narration 3, clinging to the ground like it remembered something the wind had forgotten. Travis moved slowly through it, boots pressing into sponge-soft soil, each step met with the gentle resistance of mud that had swallowed more than just rain. He wasn't supposed to be out here. The grid had flagged a low-level anomaly. A minor ping, maybe a rebounding sensor or a glitched reading. Most scouts would have ignored it. Travis didn't. He'd learned long ago that sometimes it wasn't the loud signals that mattered. It was the whisper beneath the noise. His scanner beeped again. Faint, organic, buried. He stopped at the edge of a collapsed bluff where stormwater had sheared away part of the slope 2 weeks prior. The ground here was unstable, fractured in layers. He swept the scanner once more. Same signal. Faint pulse. Child-sized mass. No movement. Something in his chest tightened. He dropped to his knees without thinking. Dirt clung to his gloves as he dug. Methodical, not frantic. The ground resisted him. Wet, tangled with vines and roots, like it didn't want to let go. After 20 minutes, his fingers hit metal. An emergency pod, crushed on one side. The hatch looked half-sealed, seams clogged with sediment. He scraped them clean, heart pounding, and hit the manual release. A hiss of decompression, then silence. Inside, she looked like the earth had claimed her. A small body, curled in fetal position beneath a degraded thermal blanket. Blue skin streaked with soil. Red hair matted around her face like a fallen ribbon. Her lips were cracked, hands clenched tight around a bracelet that pulsed dimly. Bioluminescent, not dead, just waiting. Travis reached in. His touch was gentle, like waking something sacred. Her fingers twitched. A gasp, a reflex. Her chest rose, barely. "I've got you," he whispered. She didn't respond, but her hand closed around his wrist like memory, like instinct. And for the first time in a long, long while, Travis felt the weight in his chest shift, not disappear, but change. From stone to something fragile, something alive. Travis carried her through the mist like she was something fragile carved from breath and memory. She didn't speak, didn't stir, but she clung to him with fingers that refused to forget. By the time he reached the clinic dome, his jacket was soaked through and her pulse had stabilized. Barely. The medical lights buzzed overhead as he stepped inside, voice low but unwavering. Urgent care. Myelery juvenile, found buried, still breathing. The nurse froze when the scanner beeped. "Wait, that's impossible," she whispered. "This child, she's logged as deceased, officially buried 15 days ago." Travis said nothing at first, just stared at the faint pulse on the monitor. She wasn't a ghost. She was warm. She was here. He didn't ask how. He didn't ask why, because Travis Cole didn't believe in data anymore. He believed in presence, in soil under your fingernails, in breath that skipped, in silence that held weight. He used to trust systems, mapping drones, environmental AI, predictive algorithms, until they failed him. His wife and daughter had died during the first collapse on the Western Ridge settlement. He'd logged a fault line. Minor, the AI said. No risk. He rescinded the warning. 2 days later, the Earth opened and swallowed everything. Since then, he mapped by hand. Alone. That's what he was doing when the signal found him. Not just the scanner's ping, but the pull. That quiet pressure in the chest. The kind that said, "Look again." Now, the child was resting. Her name, according to the nurse, was LRA. He whispered it once to himself, like testing the weight of a star. And in a sterile corner of the clinic, soaked to the bone and silent, Travis began to unravel. Not loudly, not visibly, just enough to feel something shift inside his ribs. Like maybe, just maybe, this one didn't have to be lost. She came to the grave the same way she always did. Slow, deliberate, as if walking too fast might wake the dead. The mist didn't move when she arrived. It closed around her like a ritual remembered. Velra knelt at the spiral of memory stones, her cloak heavy with old rain and breathless nights. Her hair was bound in the morning coil, red strands woven with morning thorns. The earth beneath her palms was cold. She whispered her daughter's name. Once, then again. Softer. LRA. No wind answered. Only silence. The kind that pressed. She bowed her head. I should have held you tighter, she said, voice shaking. I should have. Behind her, a footstep. Software slow. She didn't move. Grief had tricked her before. Then came a sound. Not a word. Not wind. A breath. She turned and saw him. Travis stood just beyond the stone ring, soaked, still, silent. In his arms, a shape, small, wrapped in thermal cloth, red hair, blue skin, a faint glow under the cheekbone. Velra didn't move. Her knees buckled, but she caught herself on trembling hands. Her mouth opened, but no sound came. She crawled, not walked, as if running might shatter the world. She reached halfway, then froze. I buried you, she whispered. I sang your name into the soil. I let the spirits take you. And then, a hand, small, software real, touched her cheek. Everything broke. Velra collapsed around her daughter, not with grace, but with gravity. Her body shook. Her voice cracked. She rocked the child like the act itself might stitch the universe back together. She unwound her mourning braid, tearing the thorns free until blood ran from her palm. But she didn't flinch. She pressed her forehead to LRA's and whispered, the old hymn, rain falls, Estar sleeps, shell closes, the seed keeps bone light, guide us, Kaya will find us. And then, a sound. So small she almost missed it. LRA hummed the final note. Velra choked back a sob, half joy, half terror. She cupped her daughter's face, searched for breath, for light, for warmth. She's real, Travis said behind her, voice low. Alive. Velra looked up, eyes wide, burning. Why? She asked. Why now? Why you? He answered honestly. I don't know. But she wasn't ready to be gone, and neither were you. Velra didn't sleep that night. She sat on the narrow bench inside the clinic room, knees to chest, eyes locked on the cot where LRA lay swaddled in vapor linens. The child's breathing was shallow, but steady. Her skin, once dull with cold, now held a faint blush. The bioluminescent veins beneath her cheekbones flickered, like a signal finding its rhythm again. Travis waited outside the room. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. Every time Velra shifted, she could feel him on the other side of the wall. Quiet, unmoving, steady. She didn't know what he was. Not yet. But he hadn't left. And for now, that mattered. The lights dimmed as night deepened. A breeze stirred the vapor curtain. Then, a sound. A soft hum. Off-key. Fragile. Velra's breath caught. She knew that melody. It was the nesting song, one she'd sung to LRA as a newborn, back when the child had been barely more than breath and instinct. Tears spilled before she realized she was crying. Not from grief, from something scarier. Hope. By morning, LRA's fingers had begun to twitch in her sleep, reflexes returning, limbs remembering motion. She's metabolizing again, the doctor said, adjusting the hydration port. Vitals steady, still no speech. That's normal. Silent sleep suppresses neural output, but the body remembers. Velra just nodded, wordless. Later that afternoon, LRA stirred. Not fully, just enough. Her eyelids fluttered. She blinked, slow and uncertain, like piecing light back together. Her gaze drifted, then settled on Velra. Velra leaned closer. Starling, she whispered. Can you see me? The child didn't speak, but her hand lifted, shaky, unsure, and landed on Velra's lap. Velra broke. She folded over her daughter again, pressing kisses across her forehead, cheeks, hair. She whispered names, prayers, forgotten lullabies. Her whole body trembled, not with fear this time, but with awe. When she looked up, Travis stood in the doorway, unmoving. She knows you, too, Velra said quietly, voice hoarse. Travis met her eyes. She looked at me like Like she was waiting. Velra nodded. She was. Then, after a breath, we both were. That night, Velra finally slept, on a cot beside the child, one hand resting atop the blanket, her fingers still bandaged, her breath, for once even. Travis stayed just outside the door. He didn't sleep either, but not because he was afraid, because he was learning how to stay. The bracelet had never stopped glowing. Even when her body slowed, when breath became thread and blood cooled to stillness, the bone light stayed lit. Travis noticed it first, the way the band on her wrist pulsed, not randomly, but in rhythm, like a heartbeat made of memory, like someone calling her home. What is that? He asked quietly. Velra looked at it. Her throat tightened. We call it a bone light. She ran a finger gently along the etched band. It carries the imprint of the mother. Breath pattern, voice tone, bioluminescent code. We don't bind children to rules in Myelery tradition. We bind them to memory. Travis's eyes flicked to LRA, who still lay quiet, one hand resting on her chest, the other curled gently around the bracelet. She didn't hold it, Velra said. She held me. Silence lingered between them, not empty, but heavy with realization. The doctor returned mid-morning, eyes tired but intrigued. She scanned LRA again, adjusting frequency parameters, then blinked. Her body dropped into hypometabolic stasis, one heartbeat every 40 seconds. No intake, no output, no waste markers. We've never recorded this in practice. Only theory. Velra nodded slowly. We call it silent sleep. A defense mechanism? Travis asked. Instinct, Velra corrected. The body shuts down everything except the link. The bracelet sends a single low-frequency beacon encoded with the child's last known neural imprint. It keeps them tethered, not to machines, to us. Travis sat with that for a moment, then said quietly, She didn't survive by accident. Velra met his gaze. She was remembered, so fiercely she couldn't be forgotten. That night, as rain tapped against the clinic windows, Velra spoke again, this time not as a mother in mourning, but as someone reclaiming her voice. They told me no one survived the shelter collapse. They said it was better I didn't see it myself, but I went anyway. Her voice cracked, but she kept going. I ran through 3 zones. I called her name until I didn't have a voice. I found her braid tangled in the hatch. I washed it with rainwater. I buried it myself. Travis didn't interrupt. That's what I mourned, she whispered. Not her, the braid, the idea that I had something to bury. Then, softer, I think I buried the wrong thing. She turned toward LRA, watching the gentle rise and fall of the child's breath. She didn't go under because she was afraid. She went under because she trusted I would keep calling. Travis leaned forward slightly. And you did. She nodded, eyes wet. Every 2 days, I returned. I spoke her name. I remembered. I screamed into the soil. She looked at the bracelet again, glowing faintly in the low light. Turns out, she screamed back. They left 3 days later. The storms came early that cycle, thick sheets of rain chewing through the outer barriers of the settlement. Flood warnings stacked atop structural advisories. The southern bluff, where Velra had buried her daughter, had begun to erode again. They didn't wait. Velra packed lightly. Only essentials. 2 thermal wraps, nutrient packs, the bone light, and LRA's old nesting ribbon. The child could barely walk, her legs shaky, coordination still rebuilding. But she insisted on standing. I walk, she said softly. First word since waking. Tiny. Determined. Travis met Velra's gaze across the room. No words exchanged, but they both nodded. The route to Corin Reach wasn't easy. 35 kilometers across marshland, then a ridge climb, then down into the basin. The storms would cut visibility. Mud would slow everything. But Corin Reach had higher ground. Better infrastructure, a safer clinic, and no graves. They moved at dusk, when the wind slowed and the light bent low across the horizon like a curtain parting. Velra carried LRA when the child tired. Travis took point, scanning terrain, marking possible shelters every 2 kilometers. They didn't talk much, just moved. Sometimes, that was enough. On the third night, they stopped inside an abandoned research shelter. The door creaked. The lights flickered but held. It smelled of dust and sterilized air. Travis lit a burner. Velra wrapped LRA in thermal sheets, humming low as the child nestled against her chest. The song wasn't a lullaby. It was older, one of the war chants, slowed to a rhythm that only mothers remembered. Travis sat across from them, silent, elbows on knees, watching the steam rise from his cup. After a long while, he spoke. "She called me something. Earlier. Before we left." Velra looked up, brow raised. "Skyman," he said. She looked at me and smiled and said, "Skyman, stay now." Velra blinked, then smiled. A tired, honest smile. In old dialect, that means, "Father who comes from above." Travis froze. The cup trembled slightly in his hand. He looked at the child. She was asleep now, breathing softly, cheek pressed to Velra's collarbone. "She means it," Velra said. "They don't say things unless they mean them." Travis swallowed hard. "I never asked for this." "Neither did I," she whispered. "But we didn't leave because we had no home. We left because we finally had something worth taking with us." They sat like that, quiet, watchful, unspoken. And for the first time, neither of them planned to keep walking alone. They reached Corin Reach on the 5th morning, not with fanfare or greetings, just a quiet entry into a cleaner, sturdier place. Walls built from old starship alloys, roofs strong enough to shoulder storms. The air smelled like filtered hope. Velra checked LRA into the small family wing of the med hall. Travis signed in as a support guardian. No one questioned it. No one dared. That afternoon, while LRA napped under a sun lamp, Velra stood beside Travis on the outer balcony, eyes tracing the ridge line in the distance. The wind carried the scent of sap and ion. "She calls you Skyman still," Velra said. Travis smiled faintly. "I'll take it." A pause. "But today," she added, "she said something else." Travis looked over. "She called you Karen. It means father, not by blood, but by bond." He swallowed. Velra didn't turn to face him. She simply said, I'd like you to stay." The words weren't dramatic, weren't wrapped in ceremony. They were simple, solid, like a beam set into stone. Later that evening, LRA sat on a mat by the heater, stacking small memory blocks, each one encoded with scent and sound. She looked up as Travis entered the room. Her eyes lit. She patted the mat beside her. He sat. She held up a block and whispered, "This one smells like Mom when she sang." He closed his eyes and nodded. Then, softly, "And this one?" She touched the next cube to his chest. "This one smells like Skyman heart. It's warm and quiet, but doesn't leave." He looked at her. Really looked. And in that instant, something shifted. Not between them. Inside him. The kind of shift that didn't feel like falling in love. It felt like belonging. She leaned against him. Small. Solid. Velra entered quietly, carrying 2 warm bowls of root broth. LRA looked up. "Mom, can we stay here now?" Velra smiled. "We can, Starling. We will." Like a beam set into stone. Later that evening, LRA sat on a mat by the heater, stacking small memory blocks, each one encoded with scent and sound. She looked up as Travis entered the room. Her eyes lit. She patted the mat beside her. He sat. She held up a block and whispered, "This one smells like Mom when she sang." He closed his eyes and nodded. Then, softly, "And this one?" She touched the next cube to his chest. "This one smells like Skyman heart. It's warm and quiet, but doesn't leave." He looked at her. Really looked. And in that instant, something shifted. Not between them. Inside him. The kind of shift that didn't feel like falling in love. It felt like belonging. She leaned against him. Small. Solid. Velra entered quietly, carrying 2 warm bowls of root broth. LRA looked up. "Mom, can we stay here now?" Velra smiled. "We can, Starling. We will." The child turned to Travis. "Will you stay too?" He didn't speak right away. He just nodded, and when she smiled, He knew he wasn't just agreeing to stay. He was saying yes to family. Velra knew before the test confirmed it. She felt it one morning, sitting by the window while LRA slept beside a half-finished puzzle, sunlight warming her blue skin, a pull beneath her ribs. Not pain, not sickness, something else. A presence. The clinic confirmed it 2 days later. Elevated hormone levels, a shift in cellular markers, cross-species compatibility confirmed. She sat with the data in her hands, heart caught somewhere between breath and disbelief. Travis found her on the balcony that evening, staring into the tree line, shoulders still and quiet. He didn't speak. He'd learned by now that some moments had to bloom on their own. She didn't turn to look at him. You remember what she called you? Velra said. Chiron, Travis answered softly. She nodded. It means father not by blood, but by presence. But this one, her hand pressed gently to her abdomen. This one might call you father for both. The words landed like a whisper inside a cathedral. Not loud, but echoing. Travis didn't move. His face was unreadable, but something behind his eyes softened, like a wall folding inward, not collapsing, but making space. I didn't plan. Neither did I, Velra said, turning now. But life doesn't always wait for permission. She handed him the scan. He stared at it. One small flicker on the page, a heartbeat barely formed, a beginning not yet shaped by name or species. He looked up. Are you okay with it? Velra smiled faintly. More than okay. She stepped closer, voice low. LRA was born in a shelter during a war. This one will be born in peace, in a place chosen, not forced. She rested her head lightly on his shoulder. That matters. Later that night, as LRA slept curled between two soft blankets, Travis watched Velra from across the room, hand resting on her stomach, as if already listening for a rhythm. And in the quiet hum of the nightlight, something shifted. He didn't feel like a guest anymore. He felt like the ground beneath something new. Words spread slowly through Corin Reach. At first, just whispers, of a Myelery child returned from the dead, of a man from Earth who carried her from soil to sunlight, of a mother who had not stopped remembering. Then came questions. Then came officials. Velra met them all with the steadiness of a storm well anchored. She presented LRA's medical records, genetic scans, recovery data. She didn't argue. She invited them to see. And when LRA stood beside her, small, blinking, but smiling, they believed. Travis was asked to speak. He refused at first, but when LRA looked up at him with those galaxy-wet eyes and squeezed his hand, he stepped forward, not as a spokesman, as a father. We didn't find her, he said. She waited, and she remembered how to come back. The council granted LRA reinstatement into the official registry. Her name, once marked as deceased, was now alive again, etched back into the system with light. Velra was offered relocation benefits, higher standing, even political consideration. She declined them all. Instead, she asked for one thing. A place, she said, to build something permanent. So, on the highest rise of Corin Reach, overlooking the silver basin below, they cleared ground. Not for a grave, but for a circle of memory, not made of mourning stones, but of witness stones, each carved not with names of the lost, but with names of the found. In the center, 3 stones stood. One read, L-R-A, returned. One read, V-E-L-R-A, remembered. And the last, simple and quiet, Travis, stayed. Spring touched Corin Reach softly. New seedlings burst through the soil around the memory circle. LRA called them whispers because they grew without being asked. Travis repaired old shelters on the western ridge. Velra helped redesign the clinic's maternal wing. Together, they didn't build a monument. They built a rhythm. One morning, LRA ran into their shared quarters, eyes wide with joy. It kicked, she shouted. Velra blinked. Who? LRA pointed at Velra's belly. The tiny one. It kicked me. Velra laughed. I think it kicked me, actually. But I was close. She was always close now. She rarely left Velra's side or Travis's shadow. She made up names for the baby daily: Starpod, Skyseed, Little Bump. None of them stuck. But one morning, curled between them, she whispered, "Maybe we wait, and let it tell us who it wants to be." They agreed. No one rushed. Nothing needed naming until it bloomed. One evening, as the stars came out, Travis sat on the porch, a mug of cooled tea in his hands. Velra leaned against him, eyes half closed. LRA was tracing constellations with her fingers, inventing stories about them, like the humans used to do, like Myelery still did. "That one," she said, pointing, "is the three who stayed." Travis smiled. "How does it end?" LRA shrugged. "It doesn't. It just keeps going." And Travis thought, maybe that's what survival really means. Not escape, not victory, just staying and choosing to begin again.